Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, off Motor City Mad Mouse. Had a good show, Candy, right? The first hour with the Motor City Mad Mouse show. We had Molly Murphy, and we also had Steve Ballester. He had some pretty interesting topics. So the second effort doubleheader is now. Glad to have Marky Bilson on for that first hour. Tony's going to be on for the first hour. Candy and I and Eric get to ride it out for the entire show. Marky, as usual, glad to have you back on, my friend.
I'm glad to be here. It's nice that somebody wants me for a change.
Oh, that's okay. Marky, you're legendary in my circles, pal. And you bring a personality like we've never had on this show before.
Well, I try.
No, you don't try. You do. It's all good. So let's get to the topics while we have everybody on for we are. Cliff is off this week. He'll be back and ready to join us next Wednesday night. All right, we'll start off with in Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously never appeared on the Pat McAfee show Tuesdays with Rodgers, and it appeared to be over. What are your thoughts, Marky, that Rodgers decided to pass on being with Pat McAfee last year?
I mean, it's the Rodgers McAfee thing has been going on for a long time. And to be honest with you, I think it's, primetime sports talk. I mean, that is, if you can get that, what did Rodgers say on McAfee's show? That was a big news-making thing, whether, he was trying to recover from an injury with the Jets or playing with the Steelers or whatever. Right. That was gold. So if you're asking me about, what do I think about McAfee and Rodgers, I mean, I think that, I'm more disappointed that I won't be seeing that in the future than I am that Aaron Rodgers has announced this is his last season, to be brutally honest with you, because there was always something to say and something to hear on those segments.
Candy?
Yeah, let's face it. Aaron Rodgers has been a very publicized weekly guest appearance on the show, but he's really trying to go the more private life. Now that he's married, he has said that once he rides off into the sunset for football, he's not going to be making public appearances. He's going to, I don't know if it's his dark retreat or what, but he doesn't want to have that public spot, that public eye. Kudos to him. Let's face it. He's earned his time to have private life. Most of us, our lives are private for the most part. His life has been anything but public for the last 20 some years. He's given us his life for that long. He's played an incredible game at an incredible level. He's earned it.
Tony?
I like it for Aaron Rodgers. I think the Steelers will like it because ultimately Pat McAfee is looking for ratings and headlines. And normally that comes with drama in the locker room or him saying something that probably should be kept in-house, right? We watch shows like Pat McAfee because we want inside information. And if you're a current player giving out inside information, that probably doesn't play well for the team. We all know that it's going to happen, right? Because these sources are normally players. You know what I'm saying? The players are just people that in the locker room. Well, it ain't no anonymous sources if Aaron Rodgers goes on Pat McAfee and says X, Y, and Z. So I think this will work out for the team. I just wonder what changed between last year and this year. They said is a different culture and regime. Did he not feel the same respect for Mike Tomlin last year to not do this? And he just feels, I know he has a better relationship with Mike McCarthy, but like what makes this a little bit different? Or maybe he just realized that was bad business last year. I don't know, but I think this would be better for the Steelers as a whole, culture-wise.
Eric?
Oh,
go ahead, Marky.
I used to cover the Steelers years ago. I mean, Tommy Maddox was the quarterback then. But I was just going to say, with this, I think that having Rodgers give his weekly segment on McAfee, you were saying inside information and all that. Ben Roethlisberger used to do that locally on 93.7 The Fan, the Pittsburgh sports talk radio station, with Ron Cook and Joe Starkey for years while he was an active player. And it really did, I think, help rehab his reputation, that he was being this public. Whereas before, let's face it, I mean, the one time I met Ben Roethlisberger, I'll be brutally honest with you, I did not care for him. So, yeah, I mean, that was a while back, but he was very young and arrogant back then. But, that did a lot to rehab his image. I'm reading stuff, and I know how in a locker room, especially in Pittsburgh, where you do have a lot of sensational media people. I mean, Mark Madden is a sensational media talk show host, and the fan doesn't do the ratings they do by being milquetoast. Let's face it. So I do wonder if that segment isn't with McAfee isn't really absolving him to a certain extent. Yes, he says some things, but now it isn't that quote. I don't want to say taken out of context, as often they aren't, but that quote in the locker room that people are running with to make headlines. And then you're able to sort of, well, wait a minute. Here's what let me tell you what's really going on. As far as revealing things that are going on in the locker room, those things, like I said, that's Steelers quarterbacks have been doing that for quite some time.
Eric, what are your thoughts?
I mean, his segment was always the water cooler conversation because Aaron Rodgers would kind of dish out on the week, and I know that when he was toward the end there with Green Bay, which always seemed to be drama there. Everybody wanted to hear what was going on with Rodgers, and is he staying or is he going in Green Bay? And I think it's interesting too because I don't think he had any qualms with Mike McCarthy. I don't think that at all.
Right. I don't
No, I mean, he's said nothing but positive things about Mike Tomlin. I can't name anybody aside from maybe Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell, two knuckleheads who had a problem with Mike Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting too because he's having a second stint with a coach in Mike McCarthy who he ended very badly with in 2018. And he, it's interesting that he would time it there. I think that I think he knows that everyone is looking for drama to see how quickly that relationship is going to deteriorate. And so, I think that's part of it because it did. Mm-hmm. Let's face it, it did end badly. And, I think he's trying to kind of put away that coach killer reputation too with Mike McCarthy. I think that he's married, and I think that he just wants part of it too. I think he just wants to be left alone at this point. And so I think that's part of the reason why. And also, I think he's just trying to kind of mend the fence a little bit with McCarthy, because I do find it interesting, though, he did decide to come back when Mike McCarthy got hired.
All right, well, that's interesting how you say that. Number one, the way to describe the Tomlin-Rodgers relationship is totally respect. I mean, he really liked Mike Tomlin. They did. There was so much admiration between the two that it was ridiculous. Now, in McCarthy's case, let's face it, they had a good run. They won a Super Bowl together, these two guys. So, for him to end it with McCarthy this year, that's the only coach he would have come back for. He'd have been done this year. So, yeah, why not come back with McCarthy to have another run like you mentioned? But he marveled Mike Tomlin. He said if Mike Tomlin was going to come back, he would have played for Mike Tomlin. But the only other coach he could have come back for was McCarthy, and he ended up doing that. Now he doesn't mind mentoring the young kids. So, great points all the way around. As far as the Pat McAfee thing is concerned, you know what? It's okay. But keep in mind, Rodgers is getting paid to go on those shows. He wasn't doing it to not go just to screw around. He was getting paid. So, but hey, they didn't mind it. If you can bring in the numbers, you can get paid, and that's what it's all about. So I think it's going to work out well. And I like what Rodgers could potentially do for one more final year. And yeah, being married and getting out of the private life, more power to him. I'm happy for Aaron. I hope he has a really good year. I hope McCarthy has a good year. And you know what? Don't worry. We'll see plenty of Mike Tomlin on Sunday Night Football as well. Any closing thoughts before we move on?
Well, you're gonna see McCarthy for a while because the Steelers aren't known for firing coaches willy-nilly, unlike other organizations in football. They're an organization that will stay the course and ride it out for as long as they can until they have to make a change. So you'll be seeing McCarthy for a while.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I think you might see McCarthy for about 5 years. Anything else after that is bonus, just because of his age. And I know what what we've gone with Chuck Noll and all that. I think that he could have a losing record, and the Steelers will say, well, rebuilding all the, I mean, I think, unless he's 1-16 or something, which I don't foresee happening. I think that he'll be there for several seasons. And I think that he has a chance to be more popular because, you're talking about Tom. First of all, let me just say this. I was really on my thought. It was that McCarthy and Rodgers beat Mike Tomlin in their one Super Bowl victory together. Right. So, I mean, you had to think the Steelers were thinking this. And I do think McCarthy, this is a very interesting thing for me because I know how Pittsburgh is. And anywhere else, you'd think a Super Bowl winning coach coming home, he's from Greenfield. I don't know if you know that neighborhood. There's a football field right smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood McCarthy is from. All right. I mean, that's a football town, a football land, and he's coming back to save the homestead. And it should be the greatest story. And I know how Pittsburgh is so self-loathing, and there will be a significant amount of fans who will hate him for just that reason. Trust me on this.
Well, this the same organization that after winning 4 Super Bowls, they let Chuck Noll kind of flounder for most of the 80s, and even though fans were screaming fire Noll, and also kind of really ripping him at the time for not putting the shotgun formation because it was it was new at the time. The Steelers just kind of turned a deaf ear to it, knowing that he led us to a championship before, he can do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I was from there. I don't remember any great, we have to have the shotgun and all that. I remember being a 16, 17-year-old fan worried that the center was going to snap the ball over the quarterback's head. Not every team was doing it. The Cowboys were the first, and then everybody started doing it after a while. But that era, there was still, there was Noel. He still wanted to run trap plays, and you don't really run trap plays out of a shotgun, So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I know that maybe that was a bit archaic. Terry Bradshaw, Mark Malone, Cliff Stott never used the shotgun. That's true. That being said, the Cowboys did, and the Steelers beat them in 2 Super Bowls. So, I mean, I never thought it was that big of a deal that you had to drop back to pass.
Noel did put the reverse in there a little while later, so he got a little bit creative toward the end.
I get you. I will also say this: if you look at Tomlin's record the last 10 years and all this, and Noel's, I understand exactly where you're going at. They let him flounder. I think you could say the same thing with Tomlin. Because even if he didn't have a losing record, and Noel did, he had better players than Noel did in the 80s, and Noel still found a way to win playoff games with Bubby Brister at quarterback, for crying out loud. I mean, and that was something that after a while it really got to be, the Steelers won the division this year. I know they're not going to beat the Texans, though. I mean, you just went into that game thinking they were doomed.
With that team though, you have to remember though, Tomlin had more games to avoid a losing record. So had it been the regular, 16-game season, as we all knew football season to be, he probably would have had a losing record. Plus, I can't remember a recent head coach from his coaching tree.
You want to know why Tomlin doesn't have a losing record? I'll give you 2 words: Kenny Pickett. 2022, absolutely won all those games in the clutch. They were 3-7. He led them back to 9-8. The only game they lost was the one where Trubisky had to come in against, I believe it was the Panthers.
Right.
Great points all the way around. Bubby Brister, that's a name in the past. All right.
I wish I didn't remember it.
Why would we talk about Nebraska Cornhusker volleyball? I'll give you one reason why we're going to do it. Because they're going to play Missouri at Wrigley Field. And I mean, Wrigley Field this fall is part of a new partnership with the Big Ten and the SEC. Okay, Marky, what are your thoughts about the volleyball team playing at Wrigley Field? That's the reason why this topic even made it Wrigley Field.
Well, I mean, maybe it is because of my Pittsburgh ties, and Pitt has had a good volleyball team, and Penn State won the national title a couple of years ago or so. But am I the only one who kind of sees increased popularity in the sport of volleyball the last few years. I mean, I see the championships on ESPN. I'm not saying it's knocking the NFL off the front page, but I wasn't that surprised when I heard about this. Maybe my surprise was it wasn't Illinois or Northwestern or, somebody like DePaul's volleyball team, if they have one. I'm got to be honest, I don't know. But I wasn't at the panel. Is anyone sensing just a little bit more interest in volleyball than there was before?
Yeah, we got a professional team in Orlando now.
We got one. There's one in Madison.
Yeah, so it's growing. It's more word of mouth. They of course they don't have the TV deals and stuff, but it's coming.
It's going to get big. I mean, you got two of the premier volleyball schools inside the Big Ten, which is Wisconsin and Nebraska.
Yeah.
And obviously Nebraska is one of them, and they're playing at Wrigley Field. Anytime you can play at Wrigley Field is pretty cool, let alone playing volleyball there. Candy,
it's
talk
becoming
about
fantastic.
I think it's cool because I think a venue that we look at for a different sport, volleyball is normally played inside unless you're playing sandpit volleyball, granted.
Yeah.
But it's normally in like a field house at one of the schools or so I think putting it out on an iconic field like Wrigley, doing some of those, like NHL has done that, and some of the colleges have done that for NHL in stadiums. I mean, there are different schools that'll play like at Lambeau. We've seen other sports venues. It brings out big revenue. It's nice to advertise. It brings more awareness. Not that Lambeau needed awareness, or Wrigley needs awareness, but I think it brings different fans from a different sport to see a stadium that maybe they wouldn't normally go to.
It eliminates the word bucket list from a lot of people's minds when
That's
you can go to an event, whether it's a volleyball game at Wrigley. At least you can say you went to Wrigley Field. Any more or less when you talk about college football at Yankee Stadium as well. I mean, you've seen the Yankee Stadium, the new one, old one, whatever. You still get Yankee Stadium off your bucket list. I think the key word is bucket list here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Wrigley Field is obviously a bucket list item on most people's agenda if you're in the sporting world outside of Lambeau Field. Any disagreement or agreement with that?
Oh, it's the premier. It's the premier stadium, and it's one of the. It's that and Fenway Park. I mean, regardless of how good or bad the Cubs are, people are going to go to Wrigley Field no matter what. I mean, the baseball team's a monopoly at that point.
Okay, everybody has everybody.
I've been to Wrigley Field for just that reason. I remember, and again, Pittsburgh. I mean, Rick Russell pitched for both the Pirates and the Cubs way back in the day. And hey, do you want your picture taken? And I want my picture taken on this Rick Russell brick, which they had outside their whole thing. But no, I mean that was a thing. It was, and it was fun. And I mean, I've known a lot of people, a lot of fans who've said, "Where do we want to go for vacation? Let's take a weekend in Chicago. Go to all 3 games at Wrigley Field."
Wrigley's fun. I've been there when they had the brick wall behind home plate and the McDonald's was right across the street. And I've been there in recent years too when they did the 1060 project around that side of the city.
Yeah, no, I think it's just cool that this is happening. Again, you talk about Lambeau Field being a place, Wrigley Field. There's some places that are shrines in sports. Wrigley Field, Lambeau Field, I mean, and Fenway Park, as you guys have mentioned, and gals. Any closing thoughts on this at all? Or are we
Yeah, we need to bring back the Torco billboard.
There you go.
This is huge for Nebraska volleyball, but they've been balling, right? They have the record for 30 straight wins. They got the record for, I think, 60 straight home games, 31 straight sets. But this is the interesting thing. This won't be the biggest crowd they played in front of. They played in their football stadium once. 92,000 people came to watch volleyball happen. So the Nebraska volleyball is used to big crowds for sure.
Wow. Great talk. Great research.
I think it does go that what else is there in Lincoln, but no, point taken. I would not have thought, even under the circumstances, 92 for volleyball. It speaks very highly.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're graduating.
It's a nationally ranked volleyball school. So they come out with great teams every year, and you can bank on a deep tournament run. And I mean, obvious, that's, the state takes great pride in that. I think they've kind of gravitated toward volleyball because their volleyball team has essentially become what their football team used to be.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I will even go so far as to say, now that I think about when I was writing for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and they gave me a high school volleyball story there, and I remember there was a coach, I can't think of his name, but he had come from the University of Nebraska to coach in Western Pennsylvania in the high schools there, and I mean, he really was. I'm going to teach him how to play volleyball here in Pittsburgh. He was coming from Nebraska, and there was that was a generation ago. That was 20 years ago. So yeah, I mean, it seemed like volleyball state. Okay.
For what it's worth, though, Pittsburgh isn't bad at Pitt's not bad at volleyball either.
No, they weren't. He was, as I recall, he was somewhat upset that the Pennsylvania high schools were still using the scoring system where 15 gets a win of a match, and it wasn't sort of the rally point system. That he said Pennsylvania is the last state to use the 15 to win the match. I'll be honest, I don't know what it is, but yes, it was going to come in here and make Pittsburgh modern day. All the young women in the WPIAL great volleyball players. I do remember that. Yes.
Great stuff. Well, Tony, I really liked your point about what they did at their football stadium. Great research on your part, Mr. Tony. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Great stuff. I like it. All right, let's continue moving on. NBC Sports named Dave Fleming as a new voice for MLB Sunday leadoff as the veteran play-by-play broadcaster. What are your thoughts about this move, Marky?
I have no problem with it. Fleming has paid his dues, and it seems like it's about time. Who else would you put up? Especially, it seems like so long the play-by-play broadcasters, and I respect them all, but how many times have we heard people just say they wanted a different voice than Bob Costas or Joe Buck? Now, I haven't said that. Let me be honest with you. I have not said that, but it does seem like, eventually you do have to have a changing of the guard. Fleming has paid his dues. Why not?
Enough, Candy?
Yeah, I mean, when you've done it for as long as you have, and like everybody says, unless you're an iconic broadcaster like Bob Uecker, I mean, Scott, you're
Ernie
Harwell, Vince. I mean, there's a couple that are very iconic. Give other people a chance. Let's see what they have to offer and how they call games and play by play. I welcome it.
What about you, Tony?
I like Dave Fleming. He's cool calling games. I have no problem with it. And we got to start getting used to new voices, right? Like Joe Buck's not going to be here forever.
Right.
Bob Costas not going to be here forever. It seems like Bob Costas is going to be here forever, but no one's going to be here forever. So you got to get the new voices in. My only thing with NBC, and I said it jokingly on the Talking Game show I had earlier, NBC has had the Angels on for like 2 of their Sunday night games already. Please give Fleming good baseball to call, okay? Because the Angels being on primetime Sunday night is just a disservice to all of us as baseball fans. That's the only thing I ask for NBC. Give them good baseball to call.
That they're doing that. They're doing that is to showcase Mike Trout. That's why they're doing it. Otherwise,
but it's 8 other people that got a hit.
Yep. Although, if they were to do that, they'd be if they keep they're doing it. Yeah, I know other people got a hit, but the Angels are on prime time. It's because of Mike Trout. Because without Mike Trout, though, they're more irrelevant than the Cleveland Browns are in football.
Well, outside of the Rays and Yankees this year, who in the American League would you want to put on national TV out of the American League? I think and I know that the gap, the line, is not what it once was, what with interleague play and all this sort of stuff. But and that's been around for 30 years. So, I'm a dinosaur even remembering when there wasn't interleague play. But the situation is, I mean, it seems like all the strong teams, with the exception of the Yankees and the Rays, does anybody in the junior circuit even have a winning record? I think Cleveland might, but very few.
Only 13.
I mean, the White Sox have Murakami, and they've become kind of fun as of late.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's still a 500 team. Now, maybe that puts them in the pennant race. So there's something to be said for that.
Well,
But,
this is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mark, you with no disrespect, man. Let's not kid ourselves. The American League right now is very laughable, as you pretty much pointed out. It really is. We'll see if it gets any better. But you are right. It's very, very laughable. And even my woeful Detroit Tigers, with all their injuries, still have a shot at the wild card. But we're not going to get into that discussion. We have a couple more topics I want to get to while I have you on here. Everybody speak on this here about Fleming. Can I move on? All right, good. Billionaire John Morgan says he'd help bring the Rays to Orlando if the Tampa deal falls apart. Obviously, they'd be the Orlando Dreamers. It looks like this has actually put pressure on the Rays to get something closer done, Marky, because now there's been a bit more movement in the area. So what are your thoughts about the fact that actually John Morgan got involved here?
Okay, I mean, if that's what happens, great. I think that I will say this. I do realize that Tampa and Orlando are two very different cities. Right. But, it's close enough that I don't know that if a Rays fan in Lutz sees the team move to Orlando, which is about 60 odd miles away, is that really the same as moving the A's to Las Vegas, the Expos to Washington? It seems like you could still have a weekend season ticket plan like you probably had before very easily in that situation. Orlando is a town right now that, and I see San Antonio in the same boat. They're surrounded by other larger cities, so it's difficult for them to get sports franchises outside of the NBA franchise that they were able to get years ago before, let's say, other cities did have them, or in the case of San Antonio, the Dallas Chaparrals years ago moved there. So they were able to have basketball in San Antonio when Dallas did not. Mavericks didn't come until 80. So, but I don't think it's it's not a heartbreaking, if it happens, move like the Dodgers from Brooklyn to LA or something like that.
No, I get you.
It's, you can still be a fan. And I mean, I'm in Lake Will. For me, it really doesn't make that big of a difference between if the Rays are in Tampa, St. Petersburg, or Orlando. And I'm basically the home market.
Can I ask you a question? When was the last time you drove I-4?
I'm waiting on my turn to talk about it.
Wait, you will. Hold on. Marky, when was the last time you drove I-4? How many accidents and all that stuff? Tell me there's
an hour ago. Actually, if you want to know the last time, 45 minutes ago was the last time I drove I-4.
Oh, what a smart aleck I am. I put my foot in my mouth, thanks to you, but I-4 is a pain in the butt. All right, Tony, go ahead.
It is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony. I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about this. Go on, Tony.
Okay, well, I'm in Orlando, so I'm kind of torn. I have a lot of Rays fans that are friends of mine, newly friends of mine, people who are close to the situation there in St. Pete. They really don't want to see the Rays go, but they're baseball lifers. They love baseball, so that's really a minority. And you can tell by the attendance. They've missed it, and it's showing now. They've been there, and they've been winning. But, man, I think coming to Orlando would be a big difference. Man, like you said, Scott, driving down I-4 to get to St. Pete, it takes me from Orlando about 3 hours to get to the Trop. That is ridiculous, and it's all because of traffic and just the commute to get there. It's not the distance. I think Orlando would be good for it because it's more centrally located. Obviously, it's in the middle of the state. You can get those people who come down from Daytona, who goes to Tortuga games and stuff like that, who go to Jackie Robinson Stadium faithfully. They can come see Major League Baseball right here. And the opposite for Tampa, they'll have to be making a commute now, but I think it's an easier commute to get to Orlando than coming from Orlando going to Tampa. It is going to be interesting to see. It seems like it's a lot of tug of war going on. They've been having meetings and stuff, council meetings the last week or so. I actually have a friend that spoke at one. I want this team here. I really do. They already have the idea for the stadium. They have the plans to build it out. I would love for that to happen. But because of my friends that are close to the Rays and they love it. It really I'm really torn about it. But me selfishly, come on, bring the Dreamers, especially because the Rays are good, right? Like they're going to be coming with a ready-made product instead of an expansion team. I love the idea of that.
I wouldn't mind it because they're up the Florida Turnpike and it's a little bit closer than Tampa. I'd be fine with that decision all day long. Just saving up the Turnpike. In fact, Candy and I were out in Kissimmee the other day with Dennis Marook, and we did a story on him. It was great just being able to take Florida Turnpike all the way up there, catching up with my man Dennis. I'm sure you heard of him, Marky, right? Dennis Marook.
Yeah.
Washington, we hung out, had lunch with him, and did a show up there. So it was pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I got no problem going up there for that.
I'm going to say this. If this happens, that's a big if, but if it happens, did a millionaire investor from Orlando lure the Rays away? Or did the New York Yankees push them away? And it wouldn't be the first time the Yankees really pushed a team out of their hometown into some other place. They've been doing it since 1954. But the reason I say that is when you go to Tampa, right next to the Buck Stadium is not the Rays Stadium. That's in St. Pete. It's the Yankees spring training yard right there on Dale Mabry. I mean, that's the complex. Think the complex, the Chiefs and the Royals. Wait a minute. It's the Yankees and the Bucks. How is this possible? And that's where the Florida State League team plays. I was going around town the other day. I saw a guy wearing a Steinbrenner High baseball shirt. There's a George Steinbrenner High School in Tampa.
Yeah. Well, George Steinbrenner owns that town. What are you talking about? Obviously,
exactly. This is what I'm talking about.
He's got a hotel there, too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing where somehow there has been like kudzu. The New York Yankees came into Tampa, and I know that it was Steinbrenner. That was his second home. He moved there from Cleveland. All this sort of stuff. I get it. And that became kind of a Yankees area. I even remember there when he first moved there. This is when I was a little boy. There were some people worried, but the Yankees moved to Tampa. Seems a bit unlikely, but there was just enough discussion for him to say no. I just like the Sun. But they did establish, for lack of a better term, infrastructure there, and you've got so many transplants in Central Florida. This is why I think it's been difficult for the Rays to take hold in the 11th largest market.
Well, keep in mind, though, Marky, what you've got is I covered them when they were in Fort Lauderdale in I-95. As everybody knows, the Yankees were hit in Fort Lauderdale, but their problem that you had, their minor league complex was in Hollywood. It was scattered, and they obviously ended up going to Tampa. So I know exactly where you're coming from. Well, but just to give you an update on that situation, is all I'm saying about what this topic tells you is John Morgan has obviously gotten involved, and now obviously when there's pressure and competition involved, then obviously things move a little bit quicker, and knowing that he's in their shadow. You know what I'm saying, Marky? And that's when these deals get, when there's a threat that something could happen. Remember many years ago, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but when the Giants looked at St. Petersburg and so did the White Sox, that's when those stadium deals got done. Well, now obviously this dilemma has been going on for 20 years, and obviously it's been a headache for Major League Baseball, and now John Morgan gets involved, and maybe there is a distinct possibility, but I wouldn't mind it because it's up to Florida Turnpike. But I love where you're going with this, Marky, because you talk about the Yankee influence in the Tampa area, but keep in mind it was the Yankees that allowed him to play over at George Steinbrenner Field last year, and I think the Yankees are endorsing him to go to that proposed site at Hillsborough Community College. They want him there, and they stood up, but it's a great topic to think John Morgan got involved, and then things started to move a little quicker. There's a little pressure. That's the only reason I brought this on, Marky. But your points are very valuable. I just want to point that out here. Anybody else talk about this? That's because I want more topics.
Let me go.
Go ahead.
All right. So here's the thing. The Yankees have already given their okay. They've given their okay for them to play in Tampa. There's no issue. Actually, I found it funny because the Yankees were essentially giving the Rays permission to play in their own city.
Exactly.
Well, the Tampa is good for the Yankees because remember their stadium's not far from the airport, so it's like right there to get players in and out of rehab assignments, spring training, the like. But with what's going on there, is, being Orlando's trying to throw their hat in the ring because there's no deal done in Tampa yet. They've been talking about this for over 20 odd years. It's almost becoming like what the Raiders were in Oakland and LA for the longest time. But there's no deal done. So everybody's going to try and have their bite at the apple. The fact that it's John Morgan, though, is huge because John Morgan carries a lot of weight in the city of Orlando. Now, if the Rays actually were to move over to Orlando, it would hardly be a move. It would be the equivalent of what the Warriors did when they crossed the bridge from Oakland to San Francisco. Right. And if a team from Wisconsin were to move to, say, Chicago, people could still make those weekend trips. They're about an hour-ish long. It's, you can easily make a weekend out of it and spend a Saturday or a Sunday at Disney World, then go to a ball game. It's not that difficult. Right now, no deal is done. This has been an ongoing problem for over 20 odd years, and it's practically taken up. It's taken up.
New England. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting, please.
Yeah, you were saying about New England in Foxborough. This is an issue that's taken up the entirety of my childhood and at least parts of my adult life. I'd like for it to end. No deal is done. They can say Tampa all they want, but until they have a handshake deal and this thing actually goes through, it doesn't become a $1 billion meltdown like it was under Stu Sternberg after the hurricane.
So with Rob Manfred, he'd like to see it end too. And you're right about Stu Sternberg, where everything fell apart. I mean, he did everything good to keep them relevant, yet they're still winning out there. Candy, some thoughts?
Yeah, they still got to take the field though, so that's hardly relevant.
One of my thoughts is the old stadium didn't work for them. Obviously, there are numerous things. Let's face it, the Chicago Bears might not be the Chicago Bears anymore because they can't get a deal. They can't find land in Chicago. So they're either going to go to a suburb or they're going to go to Indiana. I mean, and to your point, yeah, it's only just a small distance, but think of the tax implications for the county, for Tampa, if they lose the Rays and Orlando gets them.
I don't disagree. Yeah. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think you
Go ahead.
No, you have a point. Please, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. On our last show, Scott, on the Motor City Mad Mal show, we talked about how Governor DeSantis is possibly thinking about getting rid of property taxes. If he gets or increases the homestead credit, so those people that actually live in your home wouldn't pay as much in property taxes. Without that income, and now with Tampa maybe moving their stadium, where is Tampa going to get the money to pay and support their fire departments, police departments, their schools, and all of those things? How are they going to pay for that? It's a bigger thing than most people are alluding to, and it has ripple effects for a lot of different other areas that we aren't even considering.
Yeah, and all the more reason why I brought this up to begin with, because John Morgan is putting the heat on him to get a deal done. And that's the biggest part of this whole topic. It really, really, really is. I mean, Morgan has this guy owns the largest personal injury law firm on the planet. His pockets are deep out there.
Yes.
It really is. And he had the largest personal injury firm back in this team. Keep in mind, once upon a time, the Rays went out there and played some games over in Disney for a while. That didn't work out as well. But that was a different situation. We're talking about a much different animal now than it was many years ago. But still, they flirted with Orlando a little bit for some games over at the Disney complex, and we know how that turned out. I know but the whole premise of this conversation really is this: he is putting pressure on the people in Tampa to get done. You have a fallback option. That's what this is really all about. Mm-hmm. All right, final topic of the first half of the show. And it occurred over the weekend. We had a double-double that took place. Catherine Legge attempted to do it with the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600 in 2026. Candy, give us an update, but I know that she has logged more laps than Kyle Larson. So, Candy, why don't you give us an update? Everybody can talk about it, and we have a little time for at least Tony and Marky. They can do a My Town or a parting shot. But let's get to Legge first.
Hold on. I didn't realize I was doing this. Let me get that double.
It's okay. No, I mean... But that's what this whole thing comes down to begin with. But, again, we talk about motorsports big weekend, and we've seen Robbie Gordon do it. We've seen Tony Stewart do it, and I think Andretti did it as well. But now we have a young lady named Catherine Legge doing it. I think that speaks volumes in its own sense. Go ahead, Kat.
So she tried to do it. However, her historic attempt ended early when she crashed out of Indy, preventing her from traveling to Charlotte Motor Speedway to compete the feat.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in other words, it didn't work out.
It did not work out because she crashed and was injured. So she could not make the trip to Charlotte then.
Okay, Marky.
Well, I recall Tony Stewart, among others. There've been people that have chartered the plane and driven in both the Coca-Cola 600 as well as the Indianapolis 500 on the same day. Like I said, Tony Stewart is one that comes to mind. So I mean, but it's not anything all that new. My question though is this: where is IndyCar now? Because you go back, in enough years, and I know this is more than a half century ago, but a legend like Cale Yarborough decided in the early 70s, you know what, there's more money to be made in IndyCar. And people don't remember this, but he left NASCAR, drove IndyCar for a couple of years, didn't fare all that well, and said, well, you know what, in NASCAR, I'm a legend, and there's more money, at least for me, to be made here. I'm going to go back to NASCAR. At what point did we get to where to be a IndyCar driver, you had to do both races on Memorial Day weekend on the same day? At what point did NASCAR, did Danica Patrick say, you know what, I done all I can in IndyCar, now I'm going to get to go to NASCAR? At what point did the drivers get better than what they were in IndyCar in NASCAR? That's the question that I asked.
Yeah,
I have an update. My fact, the place that I went to was incorrect. She did crash out of Indy. She flew to North Carolina and finished 31st at the Coca-Cola 600 and 12 laps back after losing a tire mid-race. She only completed 17 of the scheduled 200 laps at Indy, though, before she crashed.
How many people have done the Indy and Coca-Cola 600 trick, though? Because, like I said, she isn't the first one to try it.
I think if I remember right, Mark, I thought John Andretti tried to do it too, didn't he?
Yeah, I seem to recall right there. I mean, Stewart is the one that goes into my mind.
Well, yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. I think Tony Stewart, but John Andretti, I think, tried to pull it. According to my sources, Catherine Legge quietly completed more laps in her Indy 500 Coca-Cola 600 double attempt than Kyle Larson managed across both of his tries, an underrated achievement that deserves a lot more respect. So, I mean, she surpassed Kyle Larson. I don't know if that means a whole lot or not, but it's what's worth putting out there anyways. I give the woman credit for trying to do it, and anybody that tries to do it, more power to them. So, Tony, anything you want to add to this?
Not much. I'm not really into the racing, but yeah, big ups to her for trying to do something that very few humans have done, male or female, just as an athlete. Marky, I'm just saying this. I don't know. I don't have no facts behind it. But maybe when F1 started becoming more popular in the United States, that might be part of the situation with IndyCar, because you see that F1 is popping up all over the U.S., Dallas, Miami, Vegas, so I think that might have something to do with the falling of popularity in the IndyCar race, because we're paying more attention to F1.
It was more, where the drivers and all that. I mean, I even remember, I'll even say this. I remember back in the 90s reading a columnist that I used to intern for in Pittsburgh. And I said, boy, this guy is out of touch, because he was talking about, well, don't you think the IndyCar drivers are better now? And this is when, Dale Earnhardt and Terry Labonte going at it in Bristol. This is when the NASCAR was at its peak. And to try and say that, really they're better than in IndyCar, you were like, you're crazy. What year are you living in and all that? But yeah, I know it's been a long time, because that article that I'm thinking about was in the late 90s. So yeah, more than a generation ago. But yeah, I do wonder, I mean, at what point was it, and Stuart, a NASCAR guy first, not so much an IndyCar, what point was it that an IndyCar driver had to say, to really be legitimate, I got to try NASCAR? Because it used to be the other way around.
Candy, was there something you wanted to add?
I do. Exactly 6 drivers in history have attempted the grueling double by racing in both the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day. The 6 drivers who have taken on the 1,100-mile double duty challenge are John Andretti back in 94, Robbie Gordon in 97, 2000, and 2002 through 2004.
I remember, and I actually got to know him pretty well when I was covering racing more. Go ahead, Ken.
Tony Stewart in 99 and 2001, Kurt Busch in 2014, Kyle Larson in 24 and 25, Catherine Legge in 2026. Tony Stewart is the first and only driver to successfully complete all 1,100 miles of both races in the same day, achieving this in 2001 with a 6th place at Indy and a 3rd place at Charlotte. Catherine Legge made history as the first woman and the first non-American to attempt and execute the double.
Yeah, gotta love Tony Stewart. Also, I want to point out too that we will be talking about Kyle Busch on next Wednesday's edition of the Sports Exchange. We will. What I like to do though, Marky, is when I get these type of stories, I like to get more information as time goes on about what took place and why he passed on, and then I'll have more details going in next week. And that's why I waited an extra week, a little bit longer delay on my part. I deal with it. But the reality of the situation is we will address it next week, next week's Wednesday's edition of the Sports Exchange. Another point I want to mention too, since Marky obviously lived out in Bristol, Tennessee for a while, we're going to be talking more NASCAR on the Sports Exchange as well, because that's something that Marky is pretty good at. He's got a lot of stuff baseball, but I want to find a spot for NASCAR, and with Marky being on the show, it certainly makes life a little bit easier to do that. Eric, any thoughts about this before we get Marky and Tony out of here?
I'm going to defer.
Okay. So with that said, you have any parting shots or my town, Marky?
This is going to be, again, a niche type of thing, but you mentioned being from Bristol and actually Johnson City. That's 25 miles south. Okay. But, the Tri-City. Okay. It's the Tri-Cities, if you don't know. It's like, I'm from St. Paul. Well, I'm going to tell you I'm from Minneapolis. Okay, so it's like that. Now, but I have been talking a lot on my podcast on the demise of the Southern Conference. I know more people will care about the demise of the SEC behind the Big Ten, but again, I'm from the Tri-Cities. ETSU is the Southern Conference. And just so you know, about 5 years ago, it was the 10th rated college basketball conference there was. At one time, it was the top FCS or Division I AA, depending on what era, football conference there was. Remember when Appalachian State beat Michigan?
I remember that. I would rather forget.
They were a Southern. That was a Southern Conference team. Okay, so this used to be a really good mid-major league. Why did it fall to the point that it did? And I have written something. You can look at this on my podcast, which you can find on YouTube, just at Marky Bilson, or go Bilson on ETSU. You'll find it if you do a search engine. How did this happen? Michael Cross has been the commissioner of the SoCon the last 3 years, and it occurs to me that when they were a top 10 league, or maybe 11, they weren't trying to get scheduling alliances with, say, the Atlantic 10, but rather the Atlantic Sun and the Big South, which were always leagues that, Southern Conference fans thought, they thumbed their nose at them. They were beneath them. Now the Big South is ranked ahead of the SoCon. How does this happen? Well, if that's who you're scheduling with, you're going to fall to their level. And so when we're hearing these things about how colleges are going to schedule, big news today, the SEC is no longer going to have the tune-up game before rivalry weekend. So South Carolina isn't going to play the Citadel before they play Clemson, that sort of thing anymore. You've got to look at this situation where if it's who you are playing. It's who you're sleeping with, getting into bed with. And if you're getting scheduling alliances and saying, oh, how many games can we play against the Atlantic Sun? You're going to fall down to that level. And that's exactly what the SoCon has done the last 3 years. And it's why they've gone from being a top 10 league to last year, number 23.
Hey,
so
Mark,
this thing I've been talking about, that's my hometown. There you go.
Mark, I should point this out to you, though. As much as that Appalachian State Michigan game paint, I was talking to a guy who was a prognosticator. And I actually told him before that game, because I knew that Appalachian State had won a lot at their particular level. This game's going to be a lot more closer than we think. As it turned out,
sure.
App State won. So I'm just, I like to, how much I like to kibitz with you, Marky. But with all due respect,
SoCon, you used to be able to, now they would play the UTC back then, but it used to be you could count on the Southern Conference every year to beat what was then called Division 1A or now an FBS team. If it wasn't ETSU beating Vanderbilt 5 years ago, it was Furman beating South Carolina in 1982. I mean, the Citadel, I think, has beaten South Carolina 3 times. Maybe this doesn't say well for South Carolina, but I'm just saying that this has happened a lot. And, remember, I don't know. Well, they weren't in the SoCon. I was going to remember Jacksonville State and Auburn, giving them all the
Right.
scares and all this. But no, that used to be a thing. Who's the SoCon going to be? Appalachian State used to beat Wake Forest with regularity.
Yeah.
Wake is a little bit beneath Michigan. I'll give you that. But they still had 22 more scholarships. And so, there was, consider this. I just would point out that used to be a thing. You're not seeing that anymore. Why is this league fallen? It's not the Big 10. It's not the Big 12. It's not even the Big East. But to those of us who are from the Tri-Cities or East Tennessee, it meant something. And it was, the league where the ACC and the SEC came from. And I guess it's just finding a way to fall a little bit further now. Thanks, Michael Cross.
And by the way, Marky, that was good commentary. So while you have them in, Marky, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, in fact, I just started my Twitter account back up at Bilson on ETSU. But yeah, go on. If you just do a Google search, Marky Bilson, you will be able to find my YouTube, what I'm doing on Instagram, all that sort of stuff. TikTok is probably the most popular one. We get a lot of stuff, people commenting on this. So every day I've got a podcast that lasts 1 minute. It's on something like the Southern Conference or ETSU. It's the nitty gritty of college sports. But that's where you really learn what the NCAA is all about. That's it. When you're trying to make the dollar go a little bit farther, and the challenges and seeing how this really works, you really find out about it at the mid-major level. The Power Four, they got the money. They can afford to make mistakes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You can find Marky Bilson, by the way, on Wednesday night here at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on the Sports Exchange. One thing I love about Marky is this guy is the most colorful, energetic guy I've ever seen. I don't know how many Red Bulls he drinks, but that doesn't matter.
I'm having my Folgers here anyway.
Oh, okay, that's Folgers. Well, usually the caffeine of some kind anyway. Marky, I love having you on Wednesday night. It is awesome stuff, my brother. It really is. So, listen, thank you very much for being here. And Marky, guess what? We have a date.
All right. Talk to you later.
We have a date next Wednesday at 9 o'clock, Marky. Have a great week, buddy. Thank you very much. All right, bye. All right, Tony, go ahead. Let everybody know they can get a hold of you.
All right, y'all can get a hold of me. You let me do my town.
Oh, do that too. Go ahead.
Well, my town is pretty simple because the only thing Orlando has is the Magic.
That's right. You got your town, then let everyone know they get a hold of you. That's all right.
I was really messing with you. My town is
you always mess with me anyway, so what's new? Go ahead.
My town is simple this time of year because all Orlando has is the Magic. So dreamers, come on, baby. John Morgan, work your magic. Yeah, man. So that's it. Just relax and see what happens with Orlando in the draft and what direction they go into. Be on the lookout, though. I feel a big trade coming for the Magic this offseason. They underachieve. I think they want to try and go big game hunting and get a star. That's my just prediction. No facts behind that. But you guys can find me here Monday, Wednesday, Saturday mornings, talking baseball, talking all kind of stuff, Sports Exchange, and then talking baseball again on Saturday. Wednesdays, I do my talking game. Sunday, we will be doing a live stream of wrestling for Clash in Italy. And yeah, man, y'all can follow me at Tony Talking Game on YouTube, Talking Game 1 on all social media. And I'm constantly posting, so you'll find me on there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, he's also my TikTok mentor as well. So I'm trying to get some stuff up there. I've been putting live photos up there and trying to put some videos. I'm just mixing this stuff and just messing around with this TikTok stuff anyway. But meanwhile, Tony and Eric are going to get started on Saturday. So I believe, what is it, 10:30 Eastern time, with Candy will be on there as well. So yep. Tony and Eric, I'm proud of you guys, passing the torch to you guys. I know you guys are going to do well with your show. All right, Tony, thanks for being with us. And we're going to have a couple other guys that are going to carry us during the second part of the hour. All right, Tony, God bless. Candy, give us a station break, and then we're going to bring on two more people from Metropolitan New York. Go ahead. Thanks again, Tony. See you Saturday, buddy. All right, go ahead. And we can actually bring them in now, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, talks about his 40-plus years in the business and how it has evolved. Old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audiobook is out there as well, so you can get that if you like. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content, including the great writing of Mr. Eric Katz, our panelist tonight, one of them. So go check out our website as well and his writing. If you'd like to listen to the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise or be on a show, you can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And last but not least, if you see the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. Honestly, what are you waiting for? Just click it, like us, and share it with all your friends and family. And then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
All right, at this time, I'd like to welcome back some old friends. Yes, and I'll tell you what, Chris Pizza, whatever. I mean, I love this guy. But the last time I brought him on here, I felt bad for this guy. He was in a show that was over his head. I was throwing non-sports topics. And Chris, I want to publicly apologize for putting you through that brutal thing that you had to go through. But I promise you tonight, it's all good. So please accept my apology on here, Chris, for putting
nothing to apologize. Nothing to apologize about.
I apologize. I really never felt bad for a guy brought on here than you.
Feel bad. This is your show. You talk about what you want.
Yeah, but you couldn't handle it, so I'm making sure it's an easy landing for you. Well, now listen, Rob, with all due respect, and I love Chris, I really do. The guy had his hands full, but we're making it a softer landing for Mr. Chris tonight. Rob, glad to have you back on as well. Glad to have our friends on from New York MLB Talk, who are partners of ours and collaborators. These two guys have done a marvelous job building their platform up to what it turned out to be, and we're proud to bring them on from time to time on this show. I love having these guys on, and so what I'm going to do is instead of hit them with non-sports topics that they can't have, I'm going to bombard them with New York topics, which I know they can handle. And they're our resident Mr. New Yorkers. Rob and Chris, glad to have you back on tonight.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys.
I'm happy to see you, Rob.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Well,
no, you're on my turf now.
And I'll tell you, if you ever get invited on Saturday, you'll really be on his turf because this kid here is, obviously you guys are on for the first time in a little while. But yeah, Eric's gonna have his own show on Saturday with Tony, who I think he just missed.
All I'm gonna say to Rob is hello down there.
Hey, I cannot defend the New York Mets, so
yeah. Okay, well, don't worry, you'll have a lot to talk about New York sports. So let's get this going. We have about another hour or so to go. I want to make sure we cover as many topics as we can. And we have two resident New Yorkers who are going to get the bulk of all this stuff, and we'll comment where necessary. I want to get sure everything is. All right, so let's begin with James Dolan, who's moving to split the Knicks and the Rangers into two separate public companies. We're going to start with the New Yorkers, okay, then we'll try and move it around. So, Rob, what are your thoughts about Dolan's intentions?
Well, Dolan's intentions always, are for him, so It's not out of the goodness of his heart to make everybody else rich. Although splitting both the Knicks and the Rangers will probably help stockholders in the long run. Okay, because the value of the teams combined is $13.5 million about. So that will be split. Probably turn into more for each team. The Knicks will. I just think that it's better. It's better for him. He's still going to have control of both teams, right? So it's not like he's given anything up. The Knicks will have the NBA team and their G League team, and the Rangers will have their the Rangers and the AHL affiliate. So in the long run, it's good for Dolan, and it's even better for the stockholders.
Chris, what's your take on this?
Maybe he's looking to generate some money so he could invest it in something else. I'm not sure, but I think it'll be a good thing for the Rangers to separate if they can, because listen, they need new leadership over with the Rangers, right? The Rangers have been a disaster these last few years. They've had, the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, and they could not do anything with it there. They've just been a disaster these last few years. So they could use some leadership. Obviously, Chris Drury is horrible as a GM, so they need changes there. So hopefully not hopefully, because I'm an Islander fan. I love seeing the Rangers not play well. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's to kind of generate more money, and he's going to invest in something else. So, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. And I'll tell you what I'll probably do on most of these topics. I'm going to defer most of the way because I want to lean on Rob and Chris on these. There'll be one or two when I voice an opinion to move things along. Candy, any thoughts about what Dolan's planning to do?
I mean, the Knicks are valued at $9.75 billion. Rangers approximately $4 billion. They are going to keep both their minor league teams, respectively, the G League for the Knicks, and it's so they believe the proposed transaction will provide each company with enhanced strategic flexibility, its own defined business focus, and clear characteristics for investors. I think it's smart because I think if he'd ever want to sell one of them, he would be able to. Whereas if you've got them combined, it makes it a lot harder because there's only a select few that could afford both of them combined. And I think it allows you to really focus in on what the strategic initiatives of each organization are. NBA is very different from the NHL. So I think it's smart. I think it for them and for the investors. If they might disagree with some of the Knicks, and so they want to be invested in the NHL, the Rangers part of it. So I think it allows them more flexibility.
Eric, any thoughts on this?
I mean, all that hogwash and jargon is also codename for it. James Dolan is doing it because it benefits James Dolan from the James Dolan that I've known over the years. But it's hardly the first time he's done this. I mean, he kind of did this with the New York Liberty back in the day before they obviously became what they are now as a popular team in New York City. But I think it's good. I mean, both of them are going, no matter how good or bad they are, they're always going to make money. People go to Madison Square Garden, whether the Knicks are in the championship like they are now, or they're putting up a measly 15 wins and Isaiah Thomas is their president. But yeah, it's just to benefit James Dolan. I think it's good because now you can separate the two. They can have their own separate resources, and you no longer have to divvy them up when both teams' general managers are crying the blues about not having enough this or that.
Okay, let's continue with the Mets. Glenn Sherlock actually retired. Yeah, I know. I figured he would be after being a fixture on the Mets coaching staff. Could the Mets actually use him right now, though, Kathy? Glenn Sherlock?
I don't think it'd really make much of a difference, to be honest with you, because they've got more problems than they know what to do with.
Okay, Candy?
Yeah, the Mets are interesting because they pay all this money for all this talent, and yet they're not getting the results on the field. who are you going to blame? Is it the wrong mixture of talent? Is it the wrong mixture in the locker room? Is it the coaching? Is it the GM? Is it? They have a lot. They really have to do a real self-assessment because let's face it, look at their payroll, and I'm going to compare them. Sorry, Rob, but to my Milwaukee Brewers, low payroll, but everybody's gelling, everybody's playing together, and they're getting results on the field. So obviously, money doesn't buy championships, although a lot of times it buys a lot of things. But for the Mets, it has not accomplished what they wanted it to. So I think they need to do some soul searching.
Okay, Rob, what's your take on Sherlock, who's definitely not named Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah, unless Sherlock is going to pitch or hit or field for the Mets, right now it just does not matter. Yeah, he has experience with the team, but right now it doesn't matter. The Mets are a mess. I'm the first to admit it. They're unwatchable. They have so many problems. I don't think Glenn Sherlock is going to fix their problems. They need a complete sweep. That's what they need because it's just horrible.
All right, we got a familiar face in the chat room. Nico Mikola, 3215. My guy Rob and Mike are on. Look at this. You guys know him. You might be coming out with us once in a while too. So there you go about that. We're going to be bringing you guys on, Rob and Mike. Rob and Chris anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. So I'm looking forward to having you guys back in rotation. Chris, let's talk about Sherlock. What's it? Glenn Sherlock Holmes. I'll take a Chris Bermanism there.
Yeah, I don't think a coach is going to do much help for the Mets right now, right? You know, like Rob is saying, I think right now they need a complete reboot. They're going in so many different directions now. They're bringing up all these young kids. Hopefully that's a good thing for them going forward, into next season, that they're getting all this experience this season. So I think that's a good thing, but they do need a reboot, right? Because they tried let's spend all the money. Let's have the second highest payroll, and it's not working again. So I think like Candy brought up with the Brewers, right? And that's where Stearns came from. Stearns should say, okay, let me run it the way I want to run it. And hopefully it'll go good, go the way that the Brewers went as well. Right now, it's just not, to have a guy come from the Brewers with that system to New York, I don't think is a good match, because here Cohen is saying, here, spend 350 million, 380 million on payroll, when Stearns is used to barely making over 100 million in payroll, going over 100 million. So I don't think it's a good match with Stearns. Stearns, I think, would be better, being a GM in Tampa or, Pittsburgh, some of those, one of the smaller marketplaces, not in New York. He's just not the right match here. So I think they need a whole new a reboot of their system, of their franchise. And it's got to start from there.
Chris, you hit a bullseye on this one. It really is. Again, you're talking about Andrew Friedman, who had more resources with the Dodgers, but he's handling it better with Tampa. But this is a different animal with the Mets and Stearns. But I know where you're coming from, and I'll just leave you with a bullseye there, and you nail it. Let's continue to move this thing forward, because Tim Duquette actually projected at the time of Pete Alonso's free agency that he's going to get a 5-year, $145 million deal. It could land $35 million per year for the 5 years if he had returned to the Mets. Can you give us some updates on what the contract value was that the Baltimore Orioles went out there? And obviously, it sounds like to me Stearns and Cohen blew this one as well. So can you give me an update there on the contract, and then we'll let the panel proceed from there.
Pete Alonso signed a 5-year, $155 million contract with the Baltimore Orioles during the MLB winter meetings. The deal averages $31 million per season and guarantees the slugging first baseman the highest average annual value for a first baseman in Major League Baseball, $12.5 million signing bonus, under contract with the Orioles through the 2030 season, becoming an unrestricted free agent in 2031.
Well, there you have it. Okay, Chris, go ahead. Let's talk about what it transpired with Pete Alonso. Did they blow it, and how did he make out in Baltimore? Chris, it's a 2-part question.
Do I think they blew it? Well, they did try to sign him a couple of years ago. They offered him a big extension, and he
Right.
turned it down. So that was almost kind of an insult, I think, the Mets. I think they kind of took it that way. And I think from that point on, I didn't think he was going to get a big extension from the Mets after that, right? Even last year, he got the 3 years, but it was basically a 1 year with the opt out, right? So I didn't think there was a chance of them re-signing him, even though they should have, because obviously there's a huge hole at first base. Why do you let him walk out the door? I know sometimes you got to bite your tongue or whatever you want to call it, but so I think they made a mistake by not re-signing him just because what he meant to the franchise and what he meant to the fans, right? It made no sense. So I think in that sense, yeah, they did make a mistake. And the other side in Baltimore, I think he's going to do fine. I think he's doing great. I was watching a little bit of the game today. He made a nice scoop at first base. So defensively, he seems okay. Offensively, that whole team hasn't really, they've been in a slump the last few nights, beating Tampa. I think that might get them on the right track. But I think he's going to do fine in Baltimore. Those fans are going to love that guy because the guy shows up every game. He's there to play every single game. And that's something that the Mets would love to have right now with the third of their lineup on the IL, right? So, but I think he made a good decision going to Baltimore. It's a great baseball city. I think he'll fit in really well there.
Well, I think the one thing that we have to understand about Pete Alonso is his clubhouse presence is unbelievable. I'll turn it over to Rob. Go ahead.
Yep.
Continue on.
Yeah. Listen, I think it's a big loss for the Mets. He did turn down a 7-year, $158 million contract in 2023, okay? In the summer of 2023. I think that pissed the Mets off a little, but still, he signed the 1-year contract. Well, the opt-out, actually. And the Mets, just for not only for the clubhouse presence, but for the fans, too, they should have re-signed Alonso. That was a big mistake. Coming up with this baloney about defense. What was Stearns talking about? They traded away the heart of the team. Okay, they did not win anything with these guys. That's true. But who did you replace him with? You replaced Alonso with Polanco, who only played 1 inning at first base. And now he's injured. So how did that improve your defense? I don't know. As long as Alonso, listen, he'll do fine in Baltimore. I think he put a little too much pressure on himself in the start to prove himself. And the back end of that contract is going to be terrible. Let's face it. But for now, he's going to be all right. But he was more important to the New York Mets than he would have been with the Baltimore Orioles. And the fans are still pissed about that.
All right, Eric.
Well, you saw the fallout there when it came out. What he actually said to David Stearns all the way out the door. Talk about crossing the bridge and then blowing the whole thing up completely. But it's to be truthful, that was Mets fans' guy. Yes, he strikes out a lot, but because he's a pure power hitter. Yes, he's a multi-time All-Star. The Mets haven't really had that guy who's been the lifelong Mets fan, say for David Wright, obviously, and also Ed Kranepool back in the day. But they've never had that star where you watch him in his prime and then he gets old with the team and he could do no wrong. Pete Alonso was that guy. It was bad of them to do it. The Mets' sin here wasn't necessarily letting go Pete Alonso because because we're seeing it now in Baltimore where he's a pure power guy and they either boom or they bust. But their mistake was not adequately replacing him. If they were to put him bring a guy up from the farm, okay, I understand. But you put Jorge Polanco there, who practically had never played first base there, who has had problems with his Achilles all season, and who's very much been an up and down guy throughout his career. And this is just what the Mets do. They think that they can capture magic in a box and put it and somehow it'll propel them to the promised land. It hasn't worked. It's clearly blowing up in David Stearns' face now, and he's, to be truthful, I think David Stearns is too content in trying to make the New York Mets the New York Brewers with who he brings into that team.
Candy, is there anything else you want to add? I know you gave us the research initially, but you want to add anything to the back end of this?
When you deal away, or not even deal away, when you let one of your marquee players that is a fan favorite that has done well for you, he's top in home runs. When you let somebody like that go away, it not only hurts your fan base, it hurts your locker room, because he was loved in there, everybody. And what kind of message does that send to the rest of the locker room? It sends that this is strictly a business, because it says that this guy that was so loved, and so ingrained into the team is no longer wanted there. It sends the wrong message, I think. And I think that's why the Mets aren't having the success afterwards, because I think they're, like I said, again, I'm gonna say this about the Brewers, because the Brewers have let a couple of theirs go, and sometimes the same result, they didn't have good results either. But when you send somebody like Pete Alonso on his way, the rest of the locker room goes through a mourning process. I'm gonna put it like that. It's a mourning process, and I think that's what's going on right now, and I think that's why you're not seeing the results on the field as well.
Yeah, I just found it hard to believe that Steve Cohen
keep
would
in
be
mind.
paid by the Baltimore Orioles over this guy. But we could talk about this for a while. Let's continue to move forward though, because last year Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto were the third pair of teammates to reach a 30 home run, 30 stolen base mark in a single season. Quite an accomplishment, huh, Eric?
Yeah, it was probably the only bright thing that happened to him that season, because next thing you know, the Mets kind of did what they do best, which is completely melt at the end of the year, and they end up not going to the postseason despite having a payroll bigger than everyone else, with the exception of maybe the Los Angeles Dodgers. Cool accomplishment, but it means nothing in the long run if you're not going to the postseason. And right now, the postseason is a fairy tale for the Mets at the moment.
Candy?
Again, individual stats are great, but this is a team sport. So obviously, while they can celebrate the individual success, it didn't lead to team success.
Yeah. Let's go to Rob.
Yeah, well, it's only been done. That was the third time it was done. And the other two times, one time it was also done by Mets, Howard Johnson and Darryl Strawberry in 1987. And then for the Rockies in 92, Dante Bichette and Ellis Burks did it. So it's only been done. It is impressive if you think about it. Even, listen, baseball is a game of stats no matter what. Winning is important. It's the most important thing. But baseball will always be a game of stats. And there's players who are great players with great stats who never even played in a World Series. Ernie Banks, I could just give you a list. So, yeah, the most important thing is winning, getting to the postseason, winning a World Series. But baseball is a game of individual records also. So it's pretty impressive. It's only been done 3 times.
Exactly. Great minds think alike, Rob. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's just a reminder of how good these guys were last season. And it also shows you what they're missing right now in their lineup, right? With Lindor being out. I mean, you add a guy that's going to go 30-30 or close to it into that lineup. You know what? Maybe they don't lose as many games as they've lost so far, right? They're scoring 2 runs a game. I mean, not tonight, but it just shows you how important, especially Lindor, is to that lineup and to that team, obviously, right? But it's gonna obviously take more than just Lindor returning to the Mets for them to get on some kind of a roll here. But it just does show you the stats, like Rob said, how important stats are, how important Lindor is to this team, and what he brings to this team, right? The power, the speed, just the overall game, playing at short. I mean, it's incredible the amount that he's the amount of, player that they're losing just with him alone, and they're losing actually a third of their lineup, but he's a major part, obviously leading off usually. So
Okay, let's go across town. Paul Goldschmidt became the first Team USA player to play in 3 different World Baseball Classics. Pretty impressive, Eric, for a guy like him to play in 3 different WBCs.
He's had a very accomplished career. I mean, he's I think in my opinion, I think he's a Hall of Famer. But it's impressive that you get selected to play for 3 different WBCs. That's hard, especially given that for a while we didn't have one, and you're thinking with a lot of these players, you're thinking, what if had they had it come more often? Obviously, that was due in part to COVID, but now I think they kind of got it back on track. And yeah, it's amazing how he was able to stick around that long.
Candy.
He's the first player ever to represent Team USA in 3 different. He represented in 17, 23, and 26. He previously won a gold medal with the team in 2017. That speaks volumes. A, that you had a career that's lasted that long. 2, that you've been on top of your game, that you were picked to be on the World Baseball Classic. And then to contribute like he has. Great career, great accomplishment.
Rob.
Yeah, well, I agree. To play in 3 WBCs is pretty amazing. But now you're probably going to see more of that now that more players want to play for Team USA. And I think because Judge and players of Judge's caliber decided to play, it upped the talent now. Now everybody wants to play for Team USA. So, he accomplished it before. Really, a lot of the major players wanted to play for in the WBC. So it's a great accomplishment, and I just think you'll see more of it now because the bigger names are playing.
Well, in the first WBC, guys like Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter played. So it wasn't
that's right.
You were still getting major stars. Obviously, the WBC isn't as renowned as it is now back then. But you were still attracting some major stars. I think now you're kind of going back to that, where major players that have become who have become icons of the sport are going to play now. Guys actually in the prime of their career.
I was glad to see Aaron Judge participate. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I think it goes back to just him being in the shape that he's in. I mean, he's 38 years old. And he's still playing really well. I mean, look what he's doing with the Yankees this year, right? He was going to be a bench player, but now he's playing even more with Stanton being out. So, and he's taking advantage of it. And this is a guy that's building up a Hall of Fame career, right? And I think he is going to end up in the Hall of Fame, but when his career is finally up. And I think a guy like Bobby Witt is going to probably tie it in the next WBC because he's already been on 2. Okay. And he's probably going to break it in the next one after that, right? I mean, he's still a young player, and he's obviously, one of the best players in the league, without a doubt. So, but yeah, I mean, this is a great accomplishment for anybody, like you guys have said already. I mean, just for him to be good and to be good for this long in his career, you just don't see that. Already 38 years old, and he's still good enough to be on a team that's loaded with all-stars, right? So, kudos to him, and like I said, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done.
All right, so I have to ask you New Yorkers a question. How much do you despise Philadelphia fans?
I think I do more. Met fans do more than Yankee fans. Okay. So, we just, because when we go to games in Philadelphia, they're just really, they're obnoxious and it's crazy. But I think Met fans more than Yankee fans.
What about you, Chris? What's your thought?
You know what? I can't. I can't really answer this 100% because I also am an Eagle fan, and I've been an Eagle fan forever. I've been an Eagle fan. Listen, I haven't been just an Eagle fan the last few years. I've been an Eagle fan since the Ron Jaworski days. All right, Scott. So you know Ron Jaworski, I'm sure. So you know how far back I go with that team. Yeah. But I appreciate and I respect the passion that Philadelphia fans have for their teams. especially for the Eagles and for the Phillies. I see it, and you could see it too, the frustration of a team. And I think part of why they act the way they act sometimes is because they've been so frustrated for so long, right? The Flyers haven't won since the early 70s. The Phillies, all right, they did win in 08. Okay. But before that, it was like 40 something years before that, the last time they won a World Series. And the Eagles, right, they just won, about 10 years ago, their first Super Bowl after how many years? So I respect, and I definitely appreciate their passion for their teams and for their city, obviously. But yeah, I mean, like some other fans too, they do get out of control sometimes. Maybe they get a little bit more than others, but I do appreciate them.
So when Candy and I came back from our trip, our cruise, okay, you want to talk about a bad weekend for Philly fans? I'm going to give you one. Okay, you ready?
Mhm.
And that's why I brought this topic as a way to segue into where we're going here. It wasn't a great weekend for Philly fans because the Philadelphia Flyers were swept by the Carolina Hurricanes 4-0, and the New York Knicks swept the 76ers 4-0. Well, it won't feel too bad about the Knicks. The Knicks are playing, and I'm going to get to them in a moment, but let's face it, if you're going to lose to the Knicks, that's a different animal. But my God, and I'll tell you what, the Carolina Hurricanes currently at the moment lead the Montreal Canadiens 3-0. So you want to talk about a tough weekend for the Philadelphia teams, Rob? There you go. The Flyers were swept by the Carolina Hurricanes 4-0. The Knicks were swept the 76ers 4-0. How bad does it get in there, Rob?
It can't get much worse than that. That's like 0-8 total with both sports. And especially when you have Knicks fans taking over your arena and making it look like it's the Garden, right? Where people were just going, it was like the Knicks were at a home game. And then after the game, rolling out in the streets of Philadelphia, it was crazy. So yeah, that was a horrible weekend. 0-8 weekend for the Philadelphia fans, and I'm not going to cry over it.
What about you, Chris? You gave me every reason why you like the Eagles, but you didn't say nothing about these two teams.
Yeah, but that weekend just shows you why they are so frustrated and so passionate about their teams, because they go through stuff like this, right? They get swept, in hockey, they get swept in basketball, and now they're clinging on to the Phillies, to hopefully that they could make it back to the World Series. And that's probably not going to happen. And I think they know it too, because, there's just better teams in the National League this year, not just the LA Dodgers, right? There's other really good teams. The Brewers are another one. But yeah, I think it just feeds into their frustration and into their passion for their team. And now it's going to all go to, as much as it's going to go into the Phillies, it's all going to be veered all into the Eagles season this year, right? Because they have a good shot, right, to get back to the Super Bowl. Not that they are, but you know what? They got a great shot this year, and all that frustration is going to come into the Eagles, and we're going to see that boil over there as well.
Yeah, see, Chris, here's what I was doing, man. You got to understand. I was building you up because I gave you 0-8, so you can promote the Eagles. All right, Eric.
You mean the same fan base that thought it was okay to throw snowballs at Santa Claus.
I was waiting for that.
I don't know. Philadelphia fans are a different breed animal. I'm thinking with the Phillies, they've kind of mellowed a little bit, but man, with the Eagles, there's no change in there, and especially with what happened last season. Oh boy, are they going to? It's going to probably be like the glory days of Veterans Stadium all over again.
Candy, any thoughts?
There are certain fan bases that have to take it on the chin. Yes, it happened all in one weekend, so that makes it more magnified. Correct. Right. But there are some fan bases that haven't had winning championships in more of a drought than Philadelphia. So I'm not going to feel too bad for them.
Oh.
Okay, two more topics I want to get to while we're going really well. Okay, and $140 million from the playoffs this year and revenue. Last year, guess what? $115 million according to Sportico. New York Knicks are certainly moving on up, just like the Jefferson and revenue, Rob.
Yeah, well, it's great for the sport. definitely. It's gonna listen. Anytime the Knicks go far in the playoffs, there's going to be a lot more money to be made. Okay, so everybody's happy. NBA's happy. Dolan's happy, of course. The only one's not happy, and I know it's going to be your next question, so I won't get into it, are the fans who have to pay all this money.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it's a good thing for the Knicks. It's a good thing for the NBA. The fans, I don't know.
Well, Mike Brown's happy because look where he left. He went from Sacramento to this. And,
Right.
and all they did in that last series was they had a shoot around at the expense of the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was bad. I mean, hey, listen, they didn't break up a sweat in that series, Chris.
Exactly. And now they're sitting back and waiting for the finals to start, right? So yeah, listen, every major sports league wants a New York team in the finals, or at least one of the big market teams, right? Whether it's New York, LA, Chicago, they want that, right? Whether it's basketball, baseball, you think the MLB wants one of the smaller market teams in the World Series right now? No, they want to see New York against LA. That's what they want to see in this year's World Series. And in basketball, you think they'd rather, have the Knicks against the Lakers, say, especially with LeBron playing with the Lakers, than either San Antonio or Oklahoma City? I mean, it is what it is. It's better business for these leagues to have big market teams like New York, LA, and Chicago in the finals, right? It's just better.
So let's play a little arithmetic. Okay, Chris, okay? Is 140 million greater than 115 million? I guess that's the only math question I'm good for. I say greater. Okay, because I was bad at math.
Yeah, I think it's going to go even higher probably, right? With the Knicks being in. And
but
then
let's stay with the question. We're talking about a math question. Now, we know it'll probably go higher. Let's just try to be real. Because I'm bad at math. You can show me up all you want to. It's okay. 140 million is greater than 115 million. Is that correct?
Last I checked, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Daddy Epling, I got past that math storytelling. We're good. Okay, and Chris helped me get through that. I didn't have to copy off anybody else's paper. Okay, Candy, what are your thoughts about the differences in the revenue on what happens when you win? You win in more ways than one on the court and at the bank.
The Knicks generated roughly $8 million per home game in the first round, scaling up to well over $15 million per game for deeper playoff and finals matchup. You're not going to get that except in the big markets. And let's face it, if the Knicks, here's what I'll say, if the series between the Knicks and whoever they end up playing goes deep, we talked about this on the last show too. The sixth game that would be in New York will be at the same time that the World Cup is going on in New York. And there'll be how many millions of people flooded in New York, spending all kinds of money in that city.
Okay, I heard that on TikTok today with some young lady mentioning it. Now Candy brought it up a couple times on a couple of shows. That's surreal. That is, and you know what my comment was to her? I was at the 1984 Olympics, and a lot of the people in LA were telling people, "We'll rent you our houses just to get away from the traffic." Okay,
the World Cup is in New Jersey. Not
across the river. It's across the river.
Yeah.
As I understand what they're like 5-10 minutes away, which shows you what my geographics is out here next to the woods.
Without traffic. It's close, but it's without traffic.
It's probably going to take them like an hour with traffic.
Or more.
Trust me.
Yeah, well, I mean, in our first show, Candy, we talk about Uber helicopters and seaplanes. I mean, you can probably use those things up there, right? I don't even know what that is. I don't know. How relevant are those things, Chris and Rob? Seaplanes and helicopters in your neck of the woods.
Listen, helicopters may be the only way to travel because on Staten Island alone, Staten Island's only 27 miles across. I could get to New Jersey quicker than I could get to the other side of this island. So it's just horrible, right? Chris knows.
It's true. I know.
Elementary, my friend. Eric,
I'll tell you about the Knicks and the money they made. I assure you, since the Knicks have gone to the championship for the first time since Scott was was probably lugging his Apple computer to the press box to type up his game story.
Wow.
Well, good. You saw it coming.
Yeah, I know.
But yes,
Generally do when
the
it
fans
comes to
are
me.
going to want to experience this. This is a once in a lifetime event. For example, this is I'll take the Chicago Cubs, for example, in 2016. The fans were shelling out money for that. I promise you. And the city milked that cow for all that it was worth, considering all the memorabilia and the tickets and all the other stuff that came out of when the Cubs finally won the World Series. I assure you, the fans are not going to think twice about it. Sure, they might have buyer's remorse later on, but I assure you, in the moment, they are not even thinking twice about it. And with the Knicks in the championship for the first time since the 90s, when Patrick Ewing was on the court, I promise you, the fans aren't thinking twice about it. And, the NBA loves this. They love it when teams like Boston or the Lakers and the Knicks are in the playoffs. They love it. And
The Pistons are there too. What are you talking about? They didn't mind the Pistons being there either.
But let's be honest.
And with the bad
any
boys, of
city
course,
would
they
be-
minded.
Any city's fans would be going through this.
Yes.
They're not going
Right?
to think twice about it.
Yeah. So it's the same anywhere.
Scott, I
What'd
don't
you
think
say?
you thought twice. I don't think you thought twice about it when you were lugging your computer up the stairs to get that night's game story.
No, that's true. I wasn't thinking
And you
about it
probably
back
What this
then.
was about.
I'll tell you, I think a whole lot more about it now. The way I feel, the way I have to go ahead. I'm a train wreck after all this time. But yeah, you're right, Eric. I got to give you that one.
I'm sure Milwaukee, Candy would tell us, Milwaukee would be crazy if they made it to the World Series this year, right?
You should have seen it when their basketball team made it for the first time in a while and won it. I'm telling you, your district
can
was
imagine.
packed. I'm talking, it was packed, and the stadium was packed. I'm telling you, and we had Sheryl Crow, so that helped.
Sheryl Crow. Scott, how was Detroit when they made it to the World Series? What was that? 2016.
Yeah,
they made it this century a couple times. Just all
Yeah. So you remember those days? Like the cities just go nuts.
Remember 1968, brother.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
1968.
Rob would.
Little
Hell, him and I are
funky,
the
but
same age, aren't we, Mariah?
Yes.
Rob
Yes.
remembers that one.
You
Back
got
was
that-
Rod with Kennedy, baby,
He was
like
that
I
big.
am.
That's it. Mickey Lolich, baby.
Yeah, man, Mickey
Back-
Lola.
back
there.
when-
My
back when
idol.
Down the first base line watching the game.
Scott probably, and when Scott had super long hair at the time too.
Yeah, rest in peace, Mickey Lola. Rob mentioned it. So there you go. All right, a couple more topics I want to get to. We're going to stay on the hardwood because Rob obviously tipped that cap anyways. And the get-in ticket prices for Game 3 and 4 at Madison Square Garden on that last series versus the Cadavers was $3,745 for Game 3, and then for the final one, $3,464. Pretty good. That's a pretty good catch if you can get it, Rob. We're going to leave it to the New Yorkers to talk about this one here, and then we'll go with parting shots. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. I mean, all right, you over $3,000 for the crappy seats, right? At the
Right.
Garden, which if you ever been to the Garden, way up there, yeah, they're crappy seats.
Yes, they are.
But people are going to pay for that. They're going to pay for that. It's the other thing, the floor seats, right? By the bench where you get to pay, I don't know what, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the finals, and you have Spike
Well, I'll
Lee.
get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Jay-Z,
That's-
and
You
four.
got Jay-Z right
Okay.
there too.
Don't skip ahead.
I'm
That's
so
okay.
I didn't know. I thought it was the
No,
same.
it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. Just
All right. Anyway, $3,000. You know what? I'll sit in my living room with my big screen, and I won't have to worry about getting mugged on the subway on the way home.
That boy, that's an easy. I'll get to the other one in a minute, Rob. Hang with me. bro,
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Chris.
No, I do. The worst part of it is you're selling out the the average, the real fan. Forget about the average fan, but the real diehard Knicks fan can't get in there, right? Who could afford whatever price it's going to cost to get in there? It's horrible. It's great for the Garden, it's great for the league and everything else. Yeah, they're making all the money, but where does it leave us, the real fans? We're going to have to stay home, like Rob said. We're going to have to sit back and watch in front of our screen and not be able to go to the games.
Chris, that's
That's
what
all
bars.
that means.
Chris, that's what watch parties and bars are for.
I hate that. I'd rather be home than going to a bar to watch it.
Yeah,
I'll be at the bar, no problem.
Hey, Kat, say one thing about Chris. He's a family man now, right? I believe he's a family. One thing about it, I've never been to MSG, so I know I have two tour guides up there to get me there. Although we have been to the area outside, we've never gotten inside. All right, one more thing I want to get around to here, because obviously Rob had all the Rob had fallen into the GMTA, great minds think alike. Okay, but let's think about it. Okay, 2 MSG courtside tickets for the 2026 NBA Finals are worth more than a 4-bedroom estate in OKC. Oh, only $595K. Rob, now I wouldn't mind living in OKC for the amount of cabbage there at 600 grand that you can get, but some people might think differently.
Yeah, I'll take the property, because I'm going to pay that much money to have Spike Lee screaming in my ear and spitting and yelling. Forget about it. I don't need I shower every day. I don't need Spike Lee to get his spit all over me. That's crazy. And like Chris said, a regular fan, unless they have some contest where you could win, a seat on the floor, will never get to experience that. And that's just crazy. I mean, 500 grand. Give me a break.
No, it's almost 600,000. I got to get the 95,000.
Right.
We round up 600 grand, brother.
600 grand, even worse. I'll take the estate any day.
So Rob, let me ask you a question. I got to ask him. Could I ever imagine you of all people living in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, when I'm retired, maybe. I almost moved to Kansas once, so.
Oh, really? Oh, it all comes out now.
Listen, I can do my show anywhere. I could watch my team from anywhere now, so it just doesn't matter. But I don't like cold weather.
Ooh, all right. Maybe you'll get them down the floor. Okay, well, at least you guys are right. You can do your show anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. It just might take away some of those get-togethers once in a while between you two in town. Okay, what about you, Chris? Okay,
and
600K is a lot of cabbage, brother.
Yeah, and to me, it doesn't make sense, because you know what? What happens if it's a bad game for your team and they lose? That means you spent $500-600 grand to watch your team lose. Like, what if it was a game like, if you paid $600,000 and it was a game like with Reggie Miller hitting those threes at the end of the game, the big choke one. And I mean, I was going to pay, imagine paying 600 grand to watch that up front. No, I don't want that. So no, I would never pay that much. I'd rather buy a house in Oklahoma City or wherever else for that kind of money.
Well, Chris, at least the one thing you don't have
to always flip it.
At least the one thing you don't have to worry about in the playoffs is load management, though. Well, you don't have to worry about that. And Reggie Miller, I remember. Huh? What's that? Yeah, no load management in the playoffs. Go ahead, Eric.
I was gonna say, Chris. There's the other side of the coin. Say someone bought a floor side seat at the 5-Serve Forum. They could have easily seen Giannis in game. I think in Game 6, go off for 50 points and ultimately bring the Bucks their first championship in over 30 years at that point.
Yeah, Reggie Miller definitely didn't care for New Yorkers, that's for sure.
Called gambling.
Yeah, but meanwhile, you say all you want about Giannis, but I know the Knicks were at one point in the conversation to try to get him. We'll leave it at that.
I don't know if there's ever been a sporting event. I'll end it this way. Has there ever been a sporting event that you would have paid $500,000, $600,000 to be at?
Not me, because I cover part of the media. If I can't get in with the media, I ain't going. Bag all that. I'm semi-retired now. Rob, I don't know about you, but I'm semi-retired, brother. I've graduated to cruises. I don't need all this other business.
How many cruises? $500,000-$600,000.
There you go.
There you go. Now we related
for an entire week, no less. So you're getting the same floor side treatment except for a whole week.
You know what? We should actually mention now we're on the travel thing a little bit, Candy. And this is good for Rob and Chris. I wouldn't mind bringing it up on their show once in a while if they let me. Is we're going to be starting a new YouTube channel, a travel channel. Candy will be coming up with the name, so we'll let people know what it is when the time comes. Because obviously, Rob's got me stroked here with all these cruises, and now I'm chomping at the bit to do a million videos, whether it's make your own kind of music or not. It doesn't matter. I got to tell you a funny story when we were on that last cruise. Candy said, we're going to this hibachi. Scott, and she was thinking about you, Rob, by the way, just so you know. Because Rob doesn't let me hear the end of this business here. So she's got, we got to go to one of those restaurants that make your own kind of music. I guess that's, what do you call that restaurant, Candy, again? I forgot what kind of a restaurant it is. Yeah, that. Okay, so I did one of those. But Rob, they always say when you try to do it the second time, it isn't as good. But here's the problem with the chopsticks I had before. They were plastic. They weren't the metal ones. I didn't think it came out as good as the first one. But Candy identified, she thought of Rob. Yeah, Rob, we got to make sure we tell it to him when we get back and bring him on the program. that, you know, you gotta make your own kind of music. But it doesn't kind of work with the plastic ones. It does with the metal one. But hibachi people, that's what it was, and I did. But I don't want to embarrass myself with that video because and nothing's as good as the original. All right,
That's it.
that's why I wouldn't do it tonight. So, all right. With that said, Katie and Eric, anything you want to comment about the fact that anybody that pays these kind of prices will fall into the breaking the. Yeah, well, first, I have to ask Rob and Chris a question. This is a very serious question. Okay, did you realize that there's 12 commandments and not 10?
Nope.
What about you, Rob?
What are the other 2 commandments?
Yeah, I was waiting. I like Chris's body language. Nope. Well, I mean, this is an easy one. You don't know either. Thou shalt not Thou shalt not get caught. Thou shalt not overpay. There you go. I made him up. Forget Moses. Take him out of the picture here.
Well, what are the other 10? I don't even know the other 10.
I don't know what the other 10. I just know about the 2 that I had.
Okay, so
he doesn't know the original 10.
I know. Come on.
I know my commandments from History of the World. Originally,
That's right.
20, right?
Hey, listen, Chris. These 12 commandments are a whole lot easier than what I subjected you last time you were on the Sports Exchange. This is easy stuff, isn't it, Chris? Admit it.
There you go.
Chris can handle anything.
So, Chris, you want to come back on again? How do you like the new style of the Sports Exchange? Can you handle it?
I can handle any questions.
These are easy.
That wasn't a
He
problem.
could.
Yeah.
Listen, he's got to talk to me for an hour.
Question. I don't know if I can handle a religious
I'd like to see him go ahead. I once had Marvin Powell III was a really interesting thing. I'll never forget. I don't know if Marvin's listening or not. But when he came on that version of the Sports Exchange, when I brought up Charlie Kirk on here, he said, "Holy moly, we get to talk about him." Chris, I hate to say this, brother, that might have been a little over your head talking about Charlie Kirk.
No.
It wasn't over my head. I just things I don't like to talk about.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm just kidding with you. So Marvin handled it.
Listen, you got to give Chris credit. He has to spend an hour every show with me. So,
well, look at Kathy and Candy. They got to put up with me all the time. I don't make it any easier for them either. But all I can tell you, we're having a lot of fun on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Glad to go up I-95 and bring on Chris Pizza and Rob, John F. Kennedy, baby, Maraska. Okay, just like I'm a Kennedy baby. So that's pretty good stuff to have these guys on. We're going to bring them on from time to time. They're going to be our New York correspondents and whoever else we decide to bring them on. I love bringing them on talking New York sports because that's what they're all about, New York MLB talk. So with that said, as we get ready to wrap up the program, we have another couple of minutes left to go. Chris, anything you want to add about how much your platform has really grown since the last time we were on one another's air?
No, our show has grown as much as it's grown. I don't know exactly how much it's grown, but it's grown since the last time. You know, we just I don't think about the numbers. I just think about, just me and Rob talking about baseball every week. That's what I look forward to. Yeah. And we get people coming on, we get guests, which is great. The guests are fun to talk to, especially the former players, because they have a lot of great stories. It's just a lot of fun talking baseball with Rob every week, and hearing him complain about the Mets every week is the easy thing, because it's not me complaining. I don't want to complain about my team, so I could just listen to Rob complain about his team.
Yeah, well, one thing about the players is they like to talk. I do want to mention something on a very serious note, though. When I first started this platform, one of my favorite guests of all time was Mark Littell, and boy, he's the best. Rest in peace, Mark. He passed away with complications from heart surgery, but Mark was one of the greatest, and he helped me come up with that name, No Limits, for one of my shows. So, Rob, anything you want to add, or did Chris summarize that you were thinking about how your platform has progressed?
No, listen, we're getting a lot of great guests, that's for sure. If you guys haven't heard our interview with former pitcher Jim Kern, you guys got to check it out, because that guy is great. It was so much fun. And this Friday at 10 p.m. we have Marshall Garvey coming on. He's the author of the book Interstate 95, which is all about Interstate 85, which is all about the 1985 World Series between the Cubs and the Cardinals. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So we've been getting a lot of fun guests. It's no complaints.
All right, well, with that said, now that you let the cat out of the bag, why don't you let everybody know, on behalf of you and Chris, I think you get a hold of you guys. One of you guys can say it. Choose which one you do that.
Chris, you want to say?
Say again? What? Well,
Where
what
could
do you,
they?
I didn't get that
Where
part.
could they reach us?
Oh, you could get us everywhere. You could get us on YouTube. You could get us on TikTok. You could get us on Twitter at NYMLB Talk. And we're on usually on Mondays at 3 and Fridays at 10. And on Wednesdays, we do another show called Clearing the Bases,
With
which is
other
a
guys.
lot of fun. Check that out. That's Wednesdays at 8:30 on YouTube as well. But our show is Mondays and Wednesdays. Check us out there.
I look forward to one of these days returning to your Friday night show when I get a little opportunity. We'll talk about my book. I am possibly working on the second one. And of course, we're going to let people know about that new travel YouTube channel as well. So with that said, Candy, why don't you give
Always
us a station break?
You and Candy are welcome, not just you. Candy.
Yeah,
Well,
Candy.
that's okay.
Can't. Wait a
I-
second.
we want to talk about the Brewers.
Yeah,
right?
Candy has not been. Candy's not been on the show. You're right.
All right, well, you know
We
what?
got to get
I'll
Candy.
tell you
on.
what. We're not going on as a package. Candy gets to go on one night, and I'll go on the other. I want to do it.
Wait.
That way you get two
We
guests.
got to get both of you guys on.
I will do that too. We'll do a
Bring back-
package and then you
Chris,
can put Candy on.
bring
it.
back the-
Package.
Bring back the puppet. Bring back
Yeah,
the
Oh,
puppet.
he's the
we've
best.
had him on a couple of times already.
The guy, he's a little.
He'll be back again.
pissed off. It's
Well,
funny.
Hey, listen, you set it up any way you want. I enjoyed my man crack at Savino though. That was fun.
Yes.
Savino's still around. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you send my best to Anthony, would you? Some of my
Will
Mr.
do.
Guy is fun. Look forward to battling with this guy again sometime. But no, we look forward to exchanging barbs with you from time to time. We'll bring you on the Wednesday night show, and the second half of the show worked out really nicely tonight. And we'll come on once in a while. It's just fun. You guys are just two of the classiest people on the planet. And it just so happens tonight worked out to get both of y'all on. And you guys gave our audience an opportunity to talk a lot about the New York sports scene as well. And I thought you did a great job doing it. All right, Candy, go ahead. Station break time.
So wait, I have one last thing. Chris,
Yeah,
are you
go ahead.
sure you want me on your show? I mean,
Absolutely.
the Milwaukee Brewers would invite the Yankees to come back to their place anytime to play them. They swept them this year,
I
and how
know, I
often
know.
does that
Yeah, it was
happen?
terrible. I witnessed one of them.
It's one of those. Yeah. Hey, you know what? That was like the Yankees, handed out, the free stuff. They were like, just let them win some games, Milwaukee.
That's it.
It was all.
Knock on wood, they swept 3 different teams this in May here. So
Brewers are hot. Brewers are hot.
They
Hey,
took
Chris,
care, they
people
took
don't
care
let
of the
them win
Cardinals.
games. People don't let them win games. Pat Murphy does a whale of a job there.
Exactly. Anybody but LA. I'll be happy if the Brewers are in the World Series. As long as it's not LA,
yeah.
I'm good.
Hey, I was there last night where where the Brewers shut down the Cardinals.
Cardinals. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
Candy, go ahead and give a station break. Eric, you're going to go ahead and close out the show a little bit to give you a rough idea that you have one coming up this Saturday morning at 10:30, and you're going to dictate who the guests are on, and you and Tony are going to run it, and I'll be there if you need me as a backup to help out any way I can support the show. Candy, station break. Candy and Eric, you know what? You're going to go ahead and close out the show tonight. Get ready to go, Mr. T-shirt.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his career in the media business and how it has changed over the years. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. There is an audiobook, but then you miss the picture of a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali. But if you're into audio, it's available there too. Link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where Mr. Eric does write. Scott writes occasionally nowadays, and you never know what else you might find. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or be a sponsor of a show or be on a show on any one of our shows, we have a bunch of them. Email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, anybody you think that would enjoy our show. And then turn on the notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Monday nights is baseball. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday night, anything goes on Motor City Madmouth Show and this show, Sports Exchange. Thursday nights is Sports Wrap, which is either soccer or hockey, depending on who he's got coming on. Tomorrow night, I believe it's going to be hockey. Yep. They are playing the playoffs right now, so they're going to be talking a lot about that. After that is the country club, and that would be Fire Up. Saturday mornings is Talking Baseball. The other thing is go to our YouTube channel and look at some of our videos. We're putting up some of our travel videos, but Scott did an interview this past on Memorial Day with Dennis Maruk, former Washington Capital. Go check out. He had some interesting takes. Loved the interview. Go check it out on our website under videos. Back to you, Scott.
All right, well, Eric, you don't have to worry about closing out. We are running out of time, but I do have a final score to report. Carolina Hurricanes 4, Montreal Canadiens nothing. Carolina leads that series now 3-1. And we'll have the hockey show on to give you more updates as well. Eric, let everybody know how to get a hold of you.
You can follow me on my X account at Sports Team News. I check out my writing at SouthFloridaTribune.com, and also I got my own Substack where I'm covering all things baseball. If you think I don't like your team, I probably don't.
We have your own show Saturday, so why don't you give everybody what their appetite about what they can expect for your show with you and Tony and Candy on Saturday morning at 10:30 Eastern Time.
Yes, you'll be hearing the latest happenings going on around baseball, and you might want to tune in at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, because you have no idea what I'm going to say.
No, but I have an idea what you're going to wear, and that's a golf shirt. So
yeah,
just messing with him. He's my kid. But I love this kid.
What is that? Why you're speak for yourself in the sweatshirt. Speak for yourself in the sweatshirt.
Well, no, I'm in a hoodie. That's different.
That's still all the same.
You can still wear a hoodie if you want, just not a t-shirt.
Okay.
See, that's a father and son kind of thing. He's this guy talking about a typewriter, computer, and me walking upstairs. Are you nuts? I don't walk upstairs anymore. I need elevators. Rob can touch me.
Well,
when you get our age, 60, we need this stuff, right, Rob?
The elevator. Well, you didn't have it. You didn't have any such pleasure in the 90s.
Sometimes it's hard to argue when the kid is right, so I'm not going to even try. I'll leave it at that. I had a lot of pleasure, but I know where this guy's coming from.
And your hair was brown.
That much I know that too. And there's more of it. If you want to see what my hair looked like brown, get the book. So anyways, that does it for this edition of the Sports Exchange. On behalf of Cassie, on behalf of Candy, I want to welcome Rob and Chris back to the platform. Looking forward to having them on at a later date. My name is Scott Morgan off the Motor City Madmouth. Hoping you've enjoyed our doubleheader tonight, beginning with the Motor City Madmouth Show and the Sports Exchange. Again, we'll have a couple tomorrow night. We're going to have Sports Wrap at 8 o'clock, and then we're going to have the Country Club Fire Up at 9:30. Thank you very much for joining us. And Chris, and Rob, I want to welcome you back, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys more often here on the network. It's very much a part of you, and we really appreciate you guys, and hope you guys had a good time in your return to the network, okay?
Definitely. We definitely did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Good night, everybody. Bye now.